I'm not really know during that time. Yeah, then we had just made the move.
Cool. It is 11:01. And I know as the industry, you'd like to run up to usually high, but I want to be prompt and respect you guys' time and make sure that we're all able to get out there and enjoy the weather today. So thank you all for being here. Thanks for being online with us. My name is John Lader and I'm the team leader over at the Edina Market Center. We are currently under construction, doing a pretty big remodel over there. So we are temporarily housed over here at Eden Prairie. So thanks again for being here. We have a great group of panelists with a few agents, loan officer and transaction coordination as well. So let's just start off with a round of introductions, just who you are, where you're at as far as an agent and how long you've been with us.
Andrea Barachek. I'm in the Eden Prairie, or excuse me, well, currently Eden Prairie, but Edina Market Center. Been in the business for a little under 5 years. And well,
My name is, she runs a small team.
Yeah, sorry.
I can tell you team.
sure. Team lead, I've got 2 agents that are with me, Vanessa. Thanks.
My name is Michael Caslow. I'm the owner of MKT. We're part of the City Lakes office in Uptown, but we opened up our own mega agent office in Southwest Minneapolis 2 years ago in March. And I am the owner listing agent. We have 5 full-time buyers agents and 5 full-time assistants. We call them our production team.
I'm Kelly Zwilling. I run Profile Transaction Management. I've been in real estate 20 years. I've been licensed in 3 states. I've run multiple large teams with expansion. And so I've pretty much been in real estate my whole adult life. Sorry.
I'm Ryan Molstead. I'm a loan officer with Refine Lending, now powered by Illuminate Home Loans. I also run a team tailored. We have a satellite office in the KW Lakes office in Uptown as well. So I've been doing mortgages for 12 years.
I'm Joe Clements. I'm out of the Otsego office. I've been an agent for almost 6 years. I'm currently a solo agent working on building a team here in the next year or so.
Awesome. I thought I'd start us off with kind of more of a fun question, and you can say either buy side or if you're listing. I want to know what the highest number of offers you either had to compete with or present to sellers. And for TC and loan, maybe the same thing, kind of competition where you've seen that. Anyone can go first.
I had a listing, it was 3 years ago in Woodbury that I thought I had appropriately priced, but I was way low and I ended up getting 37 offers in 2 days. And that was very, very difficult to navigate. But on the sell side, that was 37. On the buy side, I competed with 21. That was just 2 weeks ago.
Did you win?
I did actually.
Right.
Yeah, so that wasn't too bad. That was over in Monticello. So kind of fun to do that. But listing side, a little bit more difficult. A lot of paperwork.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll dive into a little bit more of that.
As a loan officer, I haven't really heard every time how many offers we're going against, but I did hear one time in the craziness of 2020-21 that we submitted an offer and there was at least 50 plus on that one. So we did not get that. But yeah.
So we don't always like loan officer kind of thing. We don't always hear, but we do occasionally because the agents are typically pretty chatty. So the most that I've heard of was 42 offers.
I'm the listing agent on the team. So for properties that I've listed, the most offers was 29 offers that came in, and that was about 2.5, 3 years ago. On the buy side, I think that it has, a couple of years ago for the buyer's agents on the team, it was, I think our record was 37 or 38.
Crazy.
Yeah, I would know everybody else. I mean, for listings, usually we're trying to list things appropriately, so I don't see anything like too crazy. We've seen 18 for one of our listings, and then buy side, yeah, again, like high 20s.
Just as a conversation piece, when you talk about what we thought we had appropriately priced, even if we're getting 20 plus offers, do you take that as I should have priced it higher, or is that just the nature of what's going on in the business?
I think it depends on the area too. So, I mean, every situation, whether you're on the east side or the south side of the cities, I think it matters to where people are attracted to. I mean, you price it appropriately and people, I mean, you go back to the 2021 era where, I mean, I was writing offers literally $100,000 over and not winning.
Yeah.
Like that was just people wanted those homes that desperately. So you have no choice. I called it irresponsible spending at that point, but that's just, you can't compete with that in some nature. But I think we're starting to see it dial down. Where you price a home and you're probably seeing offers 20, 30 grand over, but it's not COVID crisis anymore, thankfully.
Yeah, I think this is the importance of the buyer's agent role when you are looking at properties or in multiple offers, and how important it is that you're doing your due diligence and really doing an accurate market analysis, because you have to determine what the pricing strategy is for that listing. And I know that for our listings, most of the time, the pricing strategy is to price at or just under market value. And so we expect that we're going to get offers that are 30 and 40 and 50,000 over, because that's the pricing strategy that we have. We've priced it 25 or 30,000 under the market value with the intention of getting that much more traffic. So it really does depend on you doing your job to say, is this property priced under market, at or above market value, to determine, you know, it's that good conversation you're having with buyers that, you know, if you're looking at a $350,000 home, you know, that it's priced at, it's listed at 350, but this is really a 399 home. So, and then you're going to be in multiple offers. So really coaching them on what that looks like, so you're not making a panic decision in the moment that you're in multiple offers.
So let's set the stage as a buyer's agent going into that and being well educated, being informed that you know you're walking into a property that's priced below. What's the most important information that you're gathering, and how do you really aim to make your offer stand out, knowing that that's the situation?
I can go again. So number one, it is really important. I'm always amazed from a listing agent perspective. I'm always amazed at how many offers come in where I've never spoken to the agent. Where they don't have, you know, and then there's agents that call me before the showing, call me after the showing. You know, it's a lot, sometimes it's too much. I'm like, hey, this is the 5th call. But they're working so hard for their clients. They want their clients to win. And I'm just amazed at buyers that will send an offer. They've never asked me what's important to the sellers. They've never asked any questions at all, knowing that they're going to be in multiple offers. So pick up the phone and call a realtor and establish a rapport, get those questions answered for your buyer. You know, one of the things that we do on our team when we know that we're going to be in multiple offers, when we're first meeting with buyers, we sit down and show them all of the options that are available to them if they find themselves in multiple offers, so they can start to process that up front. You know, is there, you know, what does the inspection period look like? What do inspections look like? How can you still have an inspection and not make an offer that's contingent on inspection? How are you able to provide a gap guarantee or any kind of gap coverage? Are you able to pay for the association documents for the seller? Are you able to contribute to their closing costs? Are you going to write a letter? So I'm a big fan of letters. I don't like the letters with the family picture and the names and look at how cute we are. And we love your house, but I love letters that say, you have spent 35 years curating this beautiful garden in your backyard, and I would love to be the one to take that over. And things that will show that you love the house to the seller. I think that's completely fine. I love when people get creative and say, hey, when you move out, leave your house as is. We will clean the house for you. If there's some big pieces of furniture that you just don't want to move and deal with, we'll do it. Just little things like that that you can do that most other buyers agents aren't thinking about, because they're writing up a multiple offer in the heat of the moment and they haven't prepared themselves for all of the creative things they can do to win.
Yeah, That's a great point, and I think we should actually look at that. What are some creative ways that you're really making yourself stand out? And it doesn't have to be terms, right? It doesn't have to be that price or that closing date. What are those creative things that you guys are either seeing or doing with your buyers?
One that I like to do, and I don't think everybody has this opportunity yet, but I would highly recommend it. I own a 16 and 18 and a 20-foot enclosed trailer that I always put in there, and I do this both ways. I give it to my buyers if we get on a house, but I will put in probably 99 out of 100 multiple offers. I will put in the language that the sellers are able to use one or all three of my trailers to move their stuff into their new property. I've only had 2 sellers ever take me up on it. So it's kind of nice when it does work out, but using that language is also a big bonus. And then obviously the free rent back too. If you guys are doing that, that I think is still a very popular item, is allowing those sellers to, if they have the opportunity, stay in their home 3 to 4 days for free, utilizing my trailer services. That way I can come pick their trailer up. I'll drop it off at their new home and then pick it up when they're all empty with it. I think that works out really well. But going back to what Michael was saying too, on that last topic, I think the phone call to those listing agents is so underrated these days. I'm in multiple offers currently on a home that I wrote an offer on last night, and I called the agent in the driveway, and she said, "Wow, you're the first agent who has called me, and we've had 27 showings." And I think to myself a lot too. I kind of mastermind with a lot of agents that I work with about, is our industry dying to a certain degree about those phone calls? Because there's nothing that irritates me more than a blind offer. Just out of nowhere, it's an agent. Were you even in my house? Like, I don't have any idea who you are. And then, you have that strategy about multiple offers, leaving out voicemails, and you never hear from these people again, which is kind of sad. But I just think it's the small, super simple things. Pick up the phone. We love your house. What can I do to make me stand out from every other agent who has wrote on your property right now? And some agents don't care. They just say, give me the most money. But this gal I talked to last night, she was very sweet. She said, "Oh, it's nice that you're calling me. Here's what my sellers need. Here's what they would love to have. Here's what they would prefer to have. Can you make any of these 3 options work?" And you put all 3 together, and that offer, when it comes across, she's going to explain to their sellers that, hey, this person called, they've done all the things they've asked. They really want you guys to be able to move into your new home in July, etc. So I think that's the breeze of it. Be simple.
It's kind of a window into the rest of the transactions,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it really is. Like, there is nothing I love more, whether I know you as an agent or I don't know you as an agent. You call me, introduce yourself. I find out how long you've been in the business, and then 2 minutes later, the lender calls, and now you know who the lender is. How long has this lender been in the business? So you feel confident going into it, rather than just going to pick on a Rocket Mortgage. You get one of those, and who are you going to talk to tomorrow? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it's just so simple. Do your job, pick up the phone, and introduce yourself.
I think as a lender, we work with a lot of different agents, right? From different brokerages, different teams, different levels of experience. And so it's always fascinating to me over the years, the perspective I have. And you are 100% right. And it's shocking to me that there are agents that will literally submit offers without calling and saying we submitted an offer,
Or no
texting,
feedback.
nothing, no call to the agent. I was like, how is that possible? I'm calling as a lender on every single offer submitted. I would expect the agent, but it happens. But backing up to, though, I think the biggest thing that I see as far as like what gets offers accepted is back it all the way up to when the buyer first sits down with both the buyer's agent and with the lender, is what are those conversations that you're having at the beginning, right? It's setting proper expectations out the gate. It's fully underwriting the pre-approval. So now we have a $15,000 closing guarantee that we can submit. We can do a loan commitment upon the offer. That's something that we can do, right? It's walking through, like Michael said, what are all the potential strategies, tactics, options that we might have in multiple offer situations, so that they know these are all the things we could deploy. We might not, but we might need to, right? And so what happens is, and they know exactly what the price point is, what the payment's going to be, how much cash to close, and everyone's on the same page, because at that point, they're super confident, they're super comfortable, and what happens is they're decisive, right? If you're decisive, speed to offer is a huge thing right now, right? And but you can't do that if you're trying to figure that out in the moment, right? When the pressure's on.
Yeah, education and expectation are 2 of the big,
Yeah.
to have a buyer that's completely ready to go, that knows exactly what they're going through, looking through a purchase agreement, even just a blank one to say like, here's what all this means, because you're gonna see this
Yep.
on the fly, because these things are gonna happen quickly. Another thing to talk about communication piece with the agent, I'm always quick to submit feedback and to be super complimentary in the comments section, because you know that's being forwarded to the customer,
Yeah.
to the client. So that's another like just little piece of submit feedback, but give something very specific and unique so that they remember you.
And also, most agents
Yeah.
aren't doing it.
Yes, correct.
Used to be what, 20%? It's gotta be much lower. now.
Oh, it's.
Yeah.
It's sad, yeah.
I think to everyone's point, sitting down with I hear this sometimes. Oh, it was their first offer. They just were gonna do the best they could, and if they win, they win. If they don't, they don't. That's crap. If they're going out and they're finding a home, even if it's the very first time, and they've loved a home enough to write an offer, you need to prepare them so that they can win successfully, even if it is their very first time they're writing an offer. And one of the things that I think we miss is talking to buyers and saying, look, this might be the very first offer you're writing, and you're competing with other buyers who have written 15 offers and have lost, which means they're going to throw everything they can at this offer because they're tired. And they have gone through this path that you're just starting on, and now they're exhausted. And what we hear is, gosh, I wish I would have made this aggressive of an offer the first time rather than 10 or 15 later. And if you can have those honest conversations with buyers and prepare them to succeed, that's how you build a business, a referral business. You've gained their trust, you've been honest, you've told them exactly what they need to do in order to have a fighting chance to win, rather than just saying, well, it's their first offer, they're gonna do the best they can. I don't buy that for a second.
Do you guys, everybody in the room too, when you have multiple offers as a listing agent, let's say you have an easy one, there's 5. You coach the other 4 that do not win, what they could have done differently, or you just,
Absolutely. So when I sit down with my sellers before we go on the market, I say to them, you know, part of what you're going to get from me is not saying pick the offer that has the highest sale price, that you're going to net the most. At the end of the day, you get to make that decision. But that shouldn't always be the most important thing. Sometimes, you know, I'm going to tell you, hey, this offer nets you $8,000 more, but this agent missed half of the things that they were supposed to fill out on the purchase agreement. I'm not confident that we're going to get to the closing table without some without some issues, because this is starting out not very impressive. I tell my sellers that you know, who we work with matters, and it doesn't mean that we have to work with an agent that I've had a lot of experience with, but how they show up by calling, by having a very complete and clean purchase agreement, and all of those things really, really matter. I coach my clients that why should we not tell the other agents what offers you have on the table? It's boggling to me when we call an agent and say, hey, can you tell me about the offers you had on the table? No, my sellers have said that I cannot do that. Well, have you talked to your sellers about the benefits, the pros or the cons about sharing what you've got on the table? Most of my clients say, share away. How does it help? You know, if we have 3 offers at 515 and 535, and an agent calls me and says, what can we do to win? I'm going to tell you.
Yep.
And so this notion that we have to keep everything a secret, and that benefits our clients some way, I'd love to have that conversation with folks that feel differently about it.
I love that. What I do with that too, I do it kind of a backwards way, but whenever I send out notifications through showing time, whenever I have multiple offers, I also put it in the agent marks. But when we get a second offer on any one of my properties, I have a conversation with my sellers about, hey, we have 2 offers. Let's really dig into what would make you say like yes tomorrow, like right away. And they'll always say, well, closing costs, I want no inspections or contingencies, or gosh, I'd really love for somebody to keep that rainbow play set so I don't have to take it apart on the Sunday. So I'll put that right in that note, say, here's the key points to think about in your offer. You know, sellers would like as little contingencies as possible. Keep the rainbow playset. They don't want to clean the oven, like stuff like that. And you will be surprised how many offers are changed that night or the next day, and they get everything that they want.
I think it's really important for listing agents to pick up the phone and call every agent whose buyers didn't win. And to explain to them what, you can't, obviously you can't tell them what the terms of the accepted offer was, but you can kind of share with them where they were in the lineup, where there were maybe some opportunities for them to do something differently, so they have a fighting chance to win for the next one. I think too many agents just text or send an email saying, sorry, they went with a different offer, and don't really have a conversation about what they can do to help coach their clients for the next house.
Well, and building rapport with other agents is the name of the game here, so having those conversations, like if you had 27 offers and you get to talk to 27 agents, and by doing the right thing, you're gonna leave like a great impression on them. And so then moving forward, if they're in a reverse position, they're like, I really liked that agent that called me and actually gave me the time of day. We're just not seeing that right now.
When I call agents, they're shocked that I've called them.
Yeah.
And they're like, you didn't have to do that, and you have no idea how much I appreciate this and how much this helps me, because this never happened.
It's tough on them.
And you'll remember those agents too. That's what I love about it. You always have, you have a list of 10 or 20 agents. You're like, gosh, they're writing an offer. And you can tell your
You're
client straight away, hey, this is a really good agent because this is what he or she does. I love that. And there's certain names that come across, even as a showing, I'll send them a message right away. Stoked that you're coming to see my house again. Let's do another property together. And then they already know what do we like to see as listing agents, and you'll learn that as buyers agents too. I think that's just that 1% difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
It works.
Escalation clauses. You guys write them, you accept them as listing agents, where do you guys sit with the escalation clauses?
Yeah, I love them. I love them myself. I've been doing them since I got into the business, and just late 2017, but I'd be curious to hear how other people write their escalation clauses, because I see, and we all see, 10 different variations of them, but how I win a vast majority of my multiple offers is trying to be creative outside of the box of my escalation clauses. You see, 8 out of 10 offers is $1,000 over the next best net offer, $500, etc. I get creative, and it's a secret I've kept close to me for a while, but it's not a huge secret. I'll use the address in my escalation clauses. So if it's 123 Main Street, I will do $1,123 over the next best offer. Y'all laugh.
But it's expensive when you get on market.
What's crazy about it is I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I have literally lost deals by $1, and I have won deals by $1. I just did one in Annandale not too long ago. One of my really good friends with a different brokerage wrote an offer at what do they close at, 606. He wrote 605 900. And I'm like, I did 600 and $113. So I'm like, Mark, I beat you by $113. He's like, there's no way. And then when we closed on it last week, he called me. He goes, you beat me by $113. It's crazy though, because you got to be different. Everybody does, not everybody, but most do the 1,000, the 500, the 2,000, so flat numbers. And then they do up to 625. You got to be different. Do 626, 123, and you will win by $1,300 or $13, whatever it is. Often. It's wild just to be thinking differently. I don't know if anybody else does it like that, but it's worked for me.
Yeah.
Incredibly.
So I'll jump in with some stats. So 2022, the offers that Profile wrote for our agents, 18% of them were written with escalation clauses. And the year average was about $3,400 over, that's their escalation clause. But there are some months in there where the average was really high, $10,000, $15,000, big numbers. And then this year, we're a little bit less, 15% with escalation clauses, and the average escalation clause being around $2,000. So it has come down. And then to kind of circle back with those other terms, right? Not the standard ones in our purchase agreement, those have really dropped off. So 2021, 2022, we saw pizza parties and moving expenses and all sorts of creative things. And I think the agents are tired, right? This probably has something to do with it. But those items like you were talking about and you're talking about are not coming through on the offers that we're writing for people right now. So I think taking the agent's advice up here on the panel. Would be a benefit, because they're not coming through. It's not every offer is like that anymore. Where last year, there was a lot of offers with full terms and things really touching on the sellers. What's interesting this weekend, I just ran a thing on Saturday to just see how many, we don't typically ask our agents if the property is in multiple offers, but we did on Saturday just to see. So we only wrote 6 offers on Saturday, 5 of them were in multiple offers. And we only had 1 that got accepted out of the 5, and it was 30 grand over asking. It did have an inspection period and an appraisal guarantee. And it looked like the other offers were either at, but they were 20, 21 grand, 11 grand. One was just $100 over. So it's really kind of interesting to see, like, if you pull out the stats, we send these out on a weekly basis to compare last year to this year. And so, if you get on our mailing list, we have those things, but
So for clarity's sake, you were saying last year, out of your accepted offers, almost 1 out of 5 were in with escalation clauses, is that what you said?
18%
Okay.
had escalation clauses. This year is 15%.
Okay. That's accepted offers.
Appraisal graphs. Last year 14%, this year 6%. And the appraisal gap is smaller. So last year we saw $25,000-$30,000 appraisal gaps. This year our average is 12,000.
Couple things too. I would, for all of you, I would check with your lender and talk about what an appraisal guarantee looks like from the lender. Sometimes just if they're able to provide that appraisal guarantee, that helps your clients out significantly because they're not having to come up with that extra cash at close. So if you haven't done that, or you haven't talked to your lender about the appraisal guarantee, I would recommend doing that. And as far as escalation clauses, we kind of have a different perspective on our team. If we're going to do an escalation clause, let's do an escalation clause. And so we're saying 2,500, 5,000 over the next best offer. We're not going to lose by $100. If we're going to lose, it's going to be because, not to say anything, I love that idea. I think it's very creative, but
Challenge accepted.
we're not going to lose this over $100. And so if you're going to do an escalation clause and your clients can afford it and they understand the value of doing it, then do it. Yeah.
I think so. Escalation clause, yes, I like the bigger numbers. I like it to be a sizable amount, but to your point about when you're making an offer, I always think about that when you're making the initial offer is that flat dollar amount. People always go 5, 10, 15,000. It's like go over by, 250, like that's the number that to me makes more sense than the escalation number. Just to be a little bit different, think outside the box, because again, everybody thinks in those like very rounded numbers.
Play Price is Right, right? And you haven't watched Price is Right. It's always $1.
Yeah, 100%. Like the offer, I wrote one last night, so I think the list price was 229.9 or something like that. So we started off 242, 206. That was the address. But yeah, so our offer price, yes, it had the different number in there. Then we did an escalation clause with a bouncing number in there too. So you kind of get both of them, but everybody's got their own vision of it. I've just found it to be so successful to be different. I just like to be different.
For sure.
I have a question for the panel on this. Does anyone as a listing agent or had this happen as a buyer's agent where you put an escalation clause, say 25 grand, and the listing agent just counters you back with that price?
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've had it frequently. My previous team did that a lot too. There's 2 agents that have been in the business a long time, and they would always go, we're in multiple offers, and somebody wrote, we'll do $25,000 over. They would just counter that and say, if they're willing to pay that, we're not going to escalate them. They can buy this house for 25 over, or we'll go to the next person, kind of playing that card. And would it always work? People would call their bluff, probably a couple times, but I think it's genius. It's a little risky.
Well, you have to make sure, obviously, too, if you go that high, that you've got an appraisal gap in there as well. So I mean, there's different pieces to that puzzle, but absolutely, I mean, people are kind of showing their hand, like, this is how badly we want it. This is our insurance policy right here. So.
Yep.
On it.
Couple things on what you said on the appraisal gap, when you said talk to the lender. Definitely, it's a good conversation that a good lender is gonna have, is if someone's putting 20% down or maybe 10% down, but they don't have to, right? Like that's your appraisal gap right there, right? So that they understand that if we had to do an appraisal gap, yes, it's a $500,000 house, we're doing 10% down, that's 50 grand. I can peel that down back if I have to, right? We don't have to put 10% down. And now here's our built-in appraisal gap coverage in terms of our actual money. You can't just make money up here, right? You can only do what you have, but there's ways to play with the numbers. And as long as they understand that, here's the impact that would be then on your payments, here's what that looks like from other standpoints, right? Having those conversations.
I think it's so important talking to the lender for that exact reason too, because I mean, most people go, I don't want PMI, so what are you gonna do? You can do 20% down. And then you realize, hey, if you do $10,000 gap guarantee, what does that look like? Talk to your lender, here's how they'll adjust your payment for X amount of days, years. And when they realize how short and how small it is, and then at the end of the day, it appraises the value anyway.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you know what I mean? So it's, your lender is so important.
The lender's important, and I think that I'm very impressed when I get an offer on a listing and the agent has shown me the team that is going to be who we're all going to be working together, how we're all going to be working together to get to closing. When someone says, this is who my lender is, this is who our title person is, this is who our inspector is. This is the game of players that's going to make this successful to closing. We do this all the time. We've got our systems in place. And here's an overview of how we do that. That is so effective. And when I sit down with my clients and I show them that, they're like, Michael, in your opinion, which offer is going to get us to the finish line with the easiest way to get to the finish line? And many times that is not the highest offer, and my clients will choose the agent who have shown themselves to be professional, who have asked what's important to the sellers, and have shown what systems they have in place and the team in place to get to the finish line.
Yeah, I literally wrote like in bold letters, be easy to work with and be flexible. Like those two things. If you're not a pain and you show that you can like make anything work, I mean, that's every listing agent's dream. So.
Because we've worked with you before, right?
Yes.
You do an amazing job on your offer submissions, your agents do. And the great thing is they do exactly what you just described. They submit that offer, include the lender on it, do an introduction to the lender. It really shows we are a team, we work together. They, you know that we're gonna always call the list agent and follow up with them as well and really cement that relationship, right? Like you can expect, outside of the financing stuff, you can expect this type of communication all the way through, right? Just really letting them know that this is a team you want to work with, right? This isn't just someone who just submits offers and doesn't call.
If you're writing an offer for a client and you've worked with that agent before, note that in your call. Hey, do you remember we worked on this sale together? Do you remember what a great experience it was for your seller and for my buyer and the whole process? You can expect that we're going to have the same experience with this one. Please share that with your sellers. We've had that.
Well, and it can be, it was a really difficult transaction and we were able to get to the finish line. We were able to navigate and figure out those tough transactions also. It's just going to be smooth and silky because sometimes they're not, right?
And this is a good example. Andrea and I have done several sales together, and I sit down with my clients when reviewing offers and say, I have worked with her. She's a professional. She knows what she's doing. She's solution based. She's always looking for solutions, and she will get us to the closing table. And that means a lot to me, and it's very valuable.
And I want to point out, it is of utmost importance that you have partners, like you're talking about, writing that in the team, but developing those relationships with your vendors, with your partners, so that those conversations are had, number one, and number two, there, what they're going to do. They're going to call that listing agent. They're going to build that rapport as well to give your clients the best chance to succeed. What I'm really truly hearing is the best term isn't the terms, it's that we're going to get to a closing table, right? And we only figure that out or develop that by building relationships and knowing the people that we're working with. So when we're talking to clients, it is about not only the terms, but how you're gonna build rapport with that listing agent or your vendors, for example.
It's kind of the same thing when we're talking about our value proposition with our sellers. If your value proposition is a lower commission, that's not a very powerful value proposition. If your only value proposition when you're writing an offer for your clients is the highest price, that's not, and everything else underneath it isn't very stable, that's not a very good value proposition for me to present to the sellers for your buyers to win.
Tell me a little bit about your process when you're sitting down with sellers and you got, 5 offers, 15 offers, 20 offers. What does that process look like, especially when we get to those bigger numbers?
Yeah, again, it goes back to the education piece, having conversations with the seller prior to even looking at offers and educating them as to what this process is gonna look like. So we're having these conversations about financing contingencies, kind of what we talked about, like, let's run through just kind of a hypothetical of what are we looking for? A lot of those conversations too, if you've got a house that you are concerned about FHA, maybe that's something that you don't entertain or you don't even accept FHA offers. So some of these things need to be had, these discussions need to be had up front. I think those are very important, again, to set expectations, educate your sellers, the same way that you would your buyers.
Yeah. When offers come in, we have an in-house listing coordinator. And as the offers come in, she is entering them into a Google spreadsheet that we are sharing from the very beginning with our sellers. So they can see as the offers are coming in, they can see everything that's coming in, and we have sale price, closing costs, inspection, earnest money, any special notes, anything you should know that's different. Have they provided a personal letter? I have that conversation with my clients up front. Do you want to see the personal letters, or do you want me to hold on to them after you've made a decision on the buyer you want to work with? Because some people are really nervous about making emotional decisions, and other people are like, I'd love to read them, and I know that's not going to affect my decision making. But we put everything in there, and at the end, we have the net to the seller, and then we color code them as far as, in my opinion, I believe these are the strongest offers that are going to get us to the closing table. These are the ones that are not, but at the end of the day, the seller gets to make the final decision.
I do something similar to both of you. I have a spreadsheet that I do for each individual offer. I don't share it right away, but that's genius doing that. But I have on my list, I think it's 11 or 12 different pinpointed things. So I put on there, did we get feedback? Has the lender called me? Did we have a conversation with the agent themselves? And then what is the financing? What are the contingencies? And the very last thing is going to be the next. So I don't put mine in any crazy order. But I think at the end of the day, I put them in my mind. I kind of go into a presentation about, hey, this guy called me 3 times. This lender called me twice. They changed their offer to make everything stronger, etc. But I present each and every single one of my offers just like everybody else, but then I highlight. So if I go in there's a written statement that'll be 14 days from now. That's a great offer. If there's no contingencies, etc. Then at the end of it, the net comes down, and then most of my clients will go, well, what do you think? And then we'll break it down, dissect each particular offer and go, well, this is FHA. They're asking for $20,000 in closing costs. They want an inspection. They have to sell the home. This one's going to take 5 minutes, and then you get, a conventional or a VA or a cash loan. This lender is great. I've worked with he or she before, just kind of explaining why each offer came through the way that it did. And then at the end, sellers, they have the choice. I love letters. I think they are amazing, only because I use them quite frequently and they work. It definitely changes the direction of the conversation when somebody has a little kid or kids, or they're doing something with their life, and then all of a sudden a $20,000 offer doesn't look as good because this little girl is smiling in a photo or whatever it might be. So you got to kind of be careful with that, but I think they're genius.
We can have a whole conversation.
I know
on
that-
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely should. I know Matt probably has some comments on the back end. But it is interesting to hear the dynamics of that, because really when we look at the letter piece, we didn't really get deep into this, but one of my questions is, how do you, when you're getting a letter, how are you ensuring that you're not going to violate any fair housing?
Exactly what Michael said, is asking their clients, do they want to review this before or after we present an offer? Most sellers will say, I'd rather see the offer first and then make a selection at the end. I think the last 2 that I have presented that had letters, my sellers refused to read both of them. They didn't want nothing to do with it. So you just rip it up, put it away, whatever you gotta do.
And I coach my clients up front. If there's a letter that comes in, it's a picture of the family and it's. Look at how cute we are, and we'd love to be the next ones or the next owners of your home. And we're a very cute white family. And I'm saying this because this happens all the time. And it's things that we don't talk about very often, but it happens. I'm gonna highly recommend to my clients that they make decisions based on the terms of the offer and the interest in the property, not who they are. And that I have kids and I am this person and this is my wife and this is, all those things. Who cares? I want my clients to protect themselves and I'm gonna protect myself and my business. That we're gonna present letters that don't have any pictures on them and that the letters just talk about how much these buyers would love to be the next owners of the home. And I think that if we can really just focus on that, the letters are awesome. But I think once we start showing faces and families and all of those things, that's where we're gonna get in trouble.
I'm starting to see a lot of the agents put in their remarks, no love letters or no photos, just
Yeah.
simple like that, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question. So I'm fine with love letters, I use them, I use them in multiple offers with you in one, I use them in multiple offers with you in one, but, I have sometimes had listing agents call me when I'm working with like an elderly couple and they're moving to like, the detached home or something like that. And they're like, we would love to know more about the family, tell us about who's moving here, do they have kids, what do they do? And it's difficult in that situation because I know they want me to say, this is a wholesome, all-American family, yes, the kids, they're so excited about the school district, blah, 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 blah. And I'm working with a retired couple who, what would you guys coach on that? You're like.
I would I get those calls and my clients will. I just like, this is a buyer who absolutely loves your home and they're very excited about the potential of being the next owner. And that's the end.
Or even talk about like, again, if they're well qualified, if they're pre-approved, if they're like fully underwritten, like talk about that piece that should matter more.
It's tricky when they want,
They want some color. Yeah.
And they're all. They're trying to be.
We want to make sure our neighbors will kill us if somebody moves in that they don't like. What does that mean?
So I have a question kind of around this again. So when I started in real estate, the buyer's agent presented the offers in person. And so I haven't seen that come around again yet, even in this crazy market. I think the letters probably replace that. But would anyone here allow a buyer's agent to present in person to their
I've had it
sellers?
one time in my previous business partner on my former team, she was all about it because that's all she did in the 90s.
Yeah,
I personally thought it was an extremely awkward.
It is.
myself. You put yourself. It was like, here's our offer. You gonna pick us? You gonna pick us? Like, oh, okay.
I think it was from a time when. Like you were, I don't want to say this in an offensive way, but like. Truly a salesperson, like you were presenting your offer to that seller, you were selling that piece of paper to them. Right, your buyers to that seller. I just wondered if it was.
It still
happening at
happens a
all.
lot. There's two brokerages in Annandale that they're very keen on doing it.
Okay.
I've been asked by a couple of them multiple times, can we do this? And it's hard to
Yeah,
from the client. So like, well,
yeah,
then you start to build a rapport with a person, and what happens when you see them at the grocery store tomorrow and they're like, oh, I remember us, you didn't pick us?
yeah.
So, kind of,
And you don't have a chance to really control that conversation.
Yeah, right.
With your clients.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to point out what Michael said about terms of the home, interest of the property. Those are the only things we talk about, right? And we don't have the opportunity to control that conversation when you start mixing a third party.
And what I'd recommend is I'm not a fan of another agent coming in and sitting down with my clients. And I mean, if it was I feel like I don't have the control that I would want to have. Sitting down with the sellers and going through that. Send me a video that I can send to my clients. That reviews the offer, maybe talks about your clients a little bit, talks about their journey and looking for their home and why they made an offer on this one. Send a video. I'm happy to share videos with my clients. I think I get them and I think they're smart and they work.
I have a lot of lenders who do the videos.
The seller.
I do, yeah, I have agents that will send a video to me to say, hey, Michael. You know, we've worked together before, let's do it again. Here are the terms of the offer. We really gave this thoughtful consideration. We don't want to run into appraisal issues, and that's why we've created the offer to look like this. You know, background and discussion. And then the next one, and with your permission, I've also attached a second video that gives an overview of the offer that I would love if you would present this to your sellers when you're presenting offers. And I say, absolutely. Yep.
We've done videos, even as a lender.
Yeah.
I see a ton of lenders doing the video.
Yeah. It's a different conversation, like, for instance. Like, I've done VA offers, I've gotten them accepted against cash offers before. And that doesn't happen often, obviously. But when you do a video and you make a phone call and you really sell it on the fact that the agent has walked through there, we both know that there's nothing in a VA appraisal that this will not pass. So that should be off the table, right? We're good, right? It's been fully underwritten. You know, sometimes like the seller had a US flag up, so then there is a little bit of that. Hey, you know, they were in the military as well and whatnot. But it's different in saying, like, we're doing VA because we earned that right as a buyer to use that, not because we have to, because we don't have a single dollar in our checking account, right? We have enough money, we can easily qualify this conventional if we wanted to, if we needed to. But we're using VA because it's a right that they earn. It's whatever it is, you know, really, like FHA, same thing, right? We're doing FHA right now, not because we have to, but because, quite frankly, right now, FHA is better priced in some cases than conventional with all the changes that have happened, right? So they're taking advantage of 3% down, this first-time home buyer conventional, whatever it is. But it's still, it's letting them know, hey, it's not because these people are in the worst position possible, and that, you know, you're going to stereotype it, that it's going to be a rocky road all the way to the closing table. That is not the case here, right? We're just simply taking advantage of programs, but having those conversations, you know, like the house is in good condition, that shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I think it's important too to take that extra step if you're working with a VA buyer, because the conversation that I have on the listing side when I'm presenting to sellers is they don't have any skin in the game. And that bothers me for some reason. I want to pick them because it's a VA loan and they served our country, but they don't have any skin in the game, and these other people do. And for some reason, I can't get over that. So presenting a video that says, hey, we've got money and we're using the benefits that we earned, and here's why we're using VA, and that comes from the lender or from the agent. I think that's very smart, especially when you're working with folks that are using, you know, not the conventional 20% down.
Well, there's so much lost in translation when we're sending things via email, and things are black and white, they're words, they're like very boilerplate, it's very specific. Adding color, adding context, like these are the things that are going to ingratiate people to you and want to make them want to work with you. But if you don't put that out there, they don't know. They're just reading words on a paper.
Back to the have to make a phone calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
one
when
thing-
you're gonna dress as nice as Ryan too, you don't want to have got you.
Right? Yeah.
The one thing I would say,
Time.
the one thing I would say to all of you is, it is, so one of the things I was just talking about with another agent is realtors mastering their work, becoming the masters of the experts in what they do, and not just doing what everybody else does. If you do it, and especially, this is what you owe your buyers, this is what they're trusting that you're going to do. When you're working with buyers and in an environment where they're in multiple offers, and this is going to continue for a while, this is not going to subside this year. We're in this, so we need to become masters of working with buyers and multiple offers. And if you do what everybody else does, you're gonna have the same results, just like in your own business. If you do what all the other realtors are doing, you're gonna have the same results as everybody else. So it's your job to constantly be looking and creating creative ways so that your buyer's offer is different than what everybody else has sitting on the table in front of them. And until you figure out how to do that, your buyers are gonna spend a long time looking for their next home. And instead of being able to find that next A buyer, you're gonna be sitting with this buyer for months because you haven't done your job in trying to figure out how to be creative in getting their offer done. And so that's our job, is to look for ways to do it differently than everybody else.
One of the things I'll say on that note, outside of Joe and his 3 trailers, all of the stuff talked about up here is free of cost, right? I mean, it doesn't come down to how much money you're spending, what you're doing financially. All of the stuff you're doing to set yourself apart is communication and being an expert and being professional. It doesn't cost you anything to do so, right? So these are ways that you can really impact your clients' lives and your business simply by being really professional and doing things a lot more. Yes.
In the interest of eliminating competition, you take the buyers to the super property on Friday. There's an open house coming Saturday. Do you ever use a sunset clause? Have you ever do anything distinguishing your decision now? How do you get that decision made to avoid competition? And how do you do that if somebody comes to the other listing agent with that secret?
I'm on both sides of that, and I love the sunset clause. When I'm writing it, I really don't like seeing them.
Yeah.
Actually, it's just how the business works. We wear 2 different hats, but I have found a lot of success in that. I don't know if you guys have, but I did. I've done a couple of them just this year alone where I kind of knew a little bit more than I probably should have in the situation. So, for example, it was a lake house in Annandale. We wrote a really good cash offer on it, like day one. The sellers were really good friends with my buyers. They had conversations they probably shouldn't have, relayed them back to not only the listing agent, but to me, that there was no offers, but they were announced that multiple offers had been had, best offer by Sunday. This was a Friday, so we went back and said, hey, well, our offer is good. We will actually give you $15,000 over what we've given you if you accept us by 12 o'clock tomorrow. And that tends to work. Well, the 12 o'clock time frame came up. They didn't respond to us, so we pulled the $15,000. And then like 3 hours later, they asked us, would you still pay the 15 grand? And we said no. And we'll pull our offer tonight at 9 p.m. And then we got it accepted at asking price before the multiple offers. Now, I felt really bad because it was really weird. This might happen to people, but as soon as that listing agent put it to pending and my name showed up as the pending, I got a phone call from an agent and they were asking me like, hey, when are offers due? When is this going? Like, we really want to submit an offer. And I was like, I'm the buyer's agent. And my offer got accepted and that agent was not happy. So I felt kind of bad, but at the end of the day, I just think you have to be strong.
Yeah.
That's and then stick to it because
Yeah.
the agent really tried to weasel me into 4 more hours of 15 grand. And I'm like, no, you don't have any other offers. I didn't tell him that, but I knew. So it worked. But then there's other times where you're on this side and you get these sunset clauses and your clients are like, well, we only have 2 offers and the other offer, isn't that good. What do we do? Well, we have a multiple offer deadline, like, let's stick to it. And then if they drop out, they drop out. But most of the time, I think you call an agent's bluff.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a lot of people like you that would pull it and stick to it.
Well, and
I
it
mean,
wasn't,
maybe, but
I personally did, I coached my clients to like,
The kicker, you didn't pull the original offer.
correct,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
correct.
okay.
But I actually coached them into like, my buyer was a lot more aggressive that day than I was, because he was like, screw them, we're done, we'll go find another lake home tomorrow. I'm like, no, we won't. Not at this point. And then it was just like, let's just settle, let's just give them until 2 o'clock. Well, it was like 12:15. He's like, nope, we're done, pull it. And I'm like, let's just wait a minute. And I mean, it worked out in the end, but it's
You're willing to walk.
Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, when you're paying cash, full price day one.
Yeah.
There's not another offer. you're getting toyed with.
Then it gets down to this thing we were talking about, like, when you set a price, like market price or a little bit under, like, how are you pricing the house and the expectation that your seller has of,
Mhm.
if somebody came in at offered at your asking price, but you priced it under market, they're not gonna be happy about that.
Right.
So again, there's a lot of different factors at play, so it depends on.
Right.
what
If you're gonna do a sunset clause, it better be a very
Yeah.
strong offer.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because most sunset clauses that come in on my listings are weak offers. And
Yep.
they are counting on the fact that the sellers can be done fast,
Mhm.
that they can come in low, and that's just not the market we're in. The other thing that I'm not a fan of them, because what I say to my sellers are like, well, what do you think? I'm like, well, if they're willing to walk away from your home
Hmm.
because we didn't meet a deadline to get back to them, how easily are they gonna walk away from anything else that we have going on
Yep.
in the
There's
sale of this
that.
home? So what they're doing is they're showing us from the very beginning how easily they're willing to walk away from your home. So I'm not a fan of them for that reason.
Can I ask a question for anyone who has done pre-inspections? I know we do them on our listings. Do you find that you receive a higher amount of offers or non-contingent offers once you've done the pre-inspection? Or like
Yes.
how, do you feel like there are pros and cons? Obviously, stuff can come up in that inspection and your sellers wrong.
So 2 years ago, when everybody was waiving inspections, I made a business decision that MKT was never going to put a listing on the market that didn't have a pre-inspection done unless our clients strongly said we're not doing this. Because I believe that no home should ever be sold without an inspection. And I think it puts sellers at risk in the future after closing if there isn't one. So I've made a decision that as part of, we bumped up our commission, but it includes a full inspection by Heartland Inspections. They come in, we do the home inspection, the sewer scope, the radon, we do everything up front. And we present that to buyers, and it has dramatically increased the number of offers that come in that are not contingent on inspection.
When you do that with your sellers, I'm gonna put this seller percentage, but, do you set the expectation then that the high priority items are gonna fix before we're on the market, or do you just put the report on?
It depends on the sellers. We have the conversation because like, okay, if we do this up front, there might be some things that are going on with this house we had no idea about, and all of a sudden we are faced with the, do we have to fix this? So we just say, welcome to buying our home and it's your responsibility. And the reality is, this is gonna come up anyway, one way or the other. And if it doesn't come up because the buyer waived inspection and we didn't do it, that's where the risk comes in after closing. That the buyers can call your sellers a year later and say, hey, I know I waived inspection. And I know this, and we're having this issue in the basement and we think you knew about it. And because there's no inspection and there's, I don't know, the buyers have a strong standing, but it's a nuisance. It's something that my sellers shouldn't have to deal with. And that's why I'm like, yeah, there might be some things that come up and we'll deal with it if we need to. But I'll tell you, sellers going on the market with the confidence that they know everything that's going on with their home, rather than going on and wondering if they're going to get an offer that's with no inspection, or if it does have an inspection, what are they going to nickel and dime us on? They came in with this really high offer, it's contingent on inspection. What are they going to find? What are they going to do? What are they going to ask us for? So I highly recommend. It is not.
If you think about it, though, it's like you're kind of creating the problem early on as opposed to in the middle of the transaction. Like getting all that out of the way so that once you're like in this lane where it's like smooth sailing because you're not having to go through inspection, maybe go back on the market. Like, again, you're taking kind of that problem that could pop up in the middle of the transaction is dealing with it right away.
And when you say backfire, I will say when we get the inspection report, especially for sellers who are very emotionally attached to their home, they have the best home in the whole city. When the inspection report comes and there are things in there, they're like, I can't believe they put this in this report. I'd rather them have that emotional reaction before we go on the market, rather than when we're in the market and then they're emotionally responding to everything. It gets messy.
Yeah.
So when we were in a seller's market, we would do that on every single listing as well, because we wanted to show, even if the buyers did their own inspection at that point in time. But then the sellers could present their listing, because when you're, or in a buyer's market, I'm sorry, I said it backwards. When you're in a buyer's market and there's 50 listings on that street, and now you're pre-inspected, the seller can go through, they can fix everything, they can have the inspection company come back, usually for a very small fee, update the inspection. And now you have this nice, pretty inspection that might have a few things that the seller's like, I'm not gonna fix. The other thing you can do is like some of the fixes, like the handyman can do it, or the homeowner can do it, they have more time. Where it can be done correctly, but they're not paying a plumber to come out and fix a leaky sink in 4 days, so now they're paying higher prices to get that thing done, they have more time.
And I'll say too that, that sometimes, every once in a while, a buyer will still do their own inspections. Mostly it's because their parents said, I bet that inspector was a friend of the seller's. And this is not good and blah, blah, blah. So they pay for their own inspection and then they come back with some things. And because we already had an inspection, I can go back and say, look, when you made the offer, your buyers already reviewed the inspection report. They knew about these things up front. So we're not doing these items because it is not okay for, just because they had their own inspection, that's fine, go for it. But we've already disclosed all of this stuff and you made an offer with all of this being disclosed up front.
Michael, I have a follow-up question to that. You mentioned when you bring in hardwood inspection to a pre-sale inspection, but you also adjust your commissions appropriately to accommodate that cost. Can you speak to what I'm perceiving as a potentially a gray area in regards to services that may or may not be under the umbrella of your business itself? How do you kind of roll the inspected cost into your commissions? Or what is that partnership agreement with the inspection company?
Yeah, so I'm always, the number one thing is I need to run a profitable business. And because I'm only doing listings and listings are the cost of sale for listings is so much more than anything else that we do. I always have to make sure that the value that I'm providing matches the commission that I'm demanding, right? And so, we do put together, you know, if you want this is our commission. If you want this is our commission. If you want this is our commission. And it's, you know, 7%. And this is what most of our clients choose because it gives them the best experience going on the market. And we have the data to show that even when they're paying more commission, they net more than they would have working with a discounted broker.
Right.
So we take all of that into consideration when we are determining what our commission is.
Sure, I think that's fair. I mean, you're reading your product for the customer, but is there markup? I hate to use that word, is that markup on top of the inspection services that you?
Is there a markup?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I'm understanding if it's a part of, it comes out of your net revenue. That payment to the inspector comes out of his revenue.
He's asking if the inspection costs $500, is the pass through to the client $500 or is it $600?
Yeah.
That's what he's asking.
yeah, that's what I'm.
It is not dollar to dollar. It is, here's package A and this is the commission. Here's package B and the commission, and here's package C and the commission, and you get to choose what you want. I don't create that based on markup based on what they choose. I'm gonna offer the service, we're gonna manage the service, and with that comes a commission to ensure that we're still running a profitable business.
Similar to like a stager or photographer or the sign company, like those aren't direct costs to a seller, they're just included in the commission.
You are potentially creating more work for yourself as well.
Absolutely.
You have to do stuff, there's things like plumbing, you need to set up all that. It's like
Exactly.
All right, we have 5 minutes over. And I promise I respect your time, so we'll do that, but give these guys a round of applause. Thank you guys for being here. Enjoy this beautiful day. With me?
Yeah. Yeah, you are.
Just stay up.
Just sit back down.
Sit.
Oh, sit back.
Okay, I think